Hi, Dave Roscoe here. It is Sunday, May 25th, 2025, and I am back from a little brief holiday that I took. As a lot of you noticed, I put an announcement in the post that I'd be taking a couple of days off. I'm back now, and I have a lot to catch up on and a lot to catch you all up on. Some of you may know more than I do at this point, so bear with me as I get my pie legs back, but let's hop right into it. There was an interesting video that a user pointed out that was put out by Coin Bureau that I want to talk about. And there was a Pi Core Team blog that was put out announcing some new dApps, as well as a new account recovery feature that is, in my opinion, long overdue. A couple have started asking me about WPI, and I'm going to talk about that as well. And I also want to give you an update on my efforts to catalog all of the Pi Network wallets. And I have some interesting results on that, so stay tuned. But first, the metrics. The circulating supply is 7.2 billion Pi, with 1.2 million Pi migrated in the last 24 hours, representing 3,949 user accounts. It doesn't seem like a lot, and it's not. Keep in mind that I missed a full 24 hours of migrations, and it looked like the previous day had quite a bit, but I just can't give you those numbers. My scripts only go the last 24 hours, and I'm too lazy right now to modify them for an arbitrary date, but maybe I'll do that in the near future. But there were migrations on a weekend, so that's always good. There is 13.2 million Pi in the Pi migration wallet. The migrated unlocked rewards is at 2 billion Pi, with 21 million Pi unlocked since my last update, which was 2 days ago, and now free to be traded on the open markets. Looking at the price action, the Pi coin is currently trading at 77 cents, which is down 1.02% from this time yesterday, with a market cap of $5.59 billion, which is also down 1%. The 24-hour trading volume is at $84.43 million, which is down 47.9% from this time yesterday. And we're getting into that point where I start cautioning you about low market volume. Right now, it looks pretty clear from the candles that we're in a rather uncertain period. We're trading sideways right now at around 75 to 77 cents. But you can see that the wicks are indicating uncertainty. So it can go either way. So be careful if you're trading on the markets. So this user pointed out that there was a video that was put out yesterday by Coin Bureau that was very informative. And if I had any thoughts on that. And yes, I do have some thoughts on that. And this was indeed a very informative video. And I'm going to say right now to my loyal Pi Network followers that you're not going to like everything you hear in this video. But in light of full transparency, I'm going to share the link with you anyway, because you should watch this video. Nothing I found in here was false, but not all of it is good. I believe in this project, but we have to realize that we live in the real world and not everything is roses and honey. And in the world of business, money rules and you make decisions to ensure the success of your project. And sometimes that means doing things that on the surface, at least, don't appear to be on the up and up. I'm going to leave it for you to decide. I did watch this video, and overall, it was a very well-balanced presentation of the good and the bad with the Pi Network. Perhaps you'd want to give a subscribe to Coin Bureau. I'm surprised. I've never heard of them before, but now that I have, I will be following them because they appear to put out very well-balanced, reasoned, objective analysis. And in this case, they did a fairly good treatment of the Pi Network. The only comment I will say is their treatment of the Pi Foundation. If you look at the Pi wallets, the Pi Foundation is not new. It's been around for quite a while, pretty much since the beginning of the project. So it didn't come out of nowhere as indicated in the video, but that's really my only complaint. So give it a view and keep in mind that you have to weigh the good and the bad when it comes to anything that you're involved in, especially when money is involved. Thanks for the comment. The Pi Core team put out an update while I was away, and overall, it's good news. I like it. They announced new dApps in the mainnet ecosystem, as well as a new way to recover your account using your trusted email address. Now, obviously, they make it a point to mention the trusted email address. So this requires you to have completed your two-factor authentication and set up that trusted email address in advance. If you don't have that, then this option is not available to you. But I just want to point that out. This blog highlights 2 recent updates that reflect ongoing progress across the Pi ecosystem. First, several new community apps have been added to the mainnet ecosystem interface, expanding what's available for pioneers and reinforcing the network's focus on ecosystem and utility. Second, a new account recovery flow has been introduced to help pioneers reset their password in a secure and efficient way. Both updates support broader participation and continued development as the network evolves. Now, there's a little spin here because these apps are not reinforcing the network's focus on ecosystem and utility. These apps were already in the pipeline. They just weren't released yet. So the focus on ecosystem and utility remains the same, whatever that may be. And now these apps are pushed through the pipeline, and that's good news. But you have to understand this, they're spinning this in a positive way. Let's not lose sight of that fact. New apps join the mainnet ecosystem interface. A new batch of Pi apps, 5 in total, has been added to the mainnet ecosystem interface, signaling continued growth across the Pi app landscape. These 5 apps, including a snake game app, e-commerce apps, and apps that provide information about the Pi token, met the network's standards for app quality, completeness of app functionalities, evaluation of utility, and compliance with stricter Pi ecosystem policies and guidelines. Now, I will say here that they did not list the apps, and it's not easy to figure out which ones they are. Now, the Python Pi app is pretty obvious, but the others, not so much. I did see a few that I think were new, but to be honest with you, I don't have the comprehensive list of all the apps that existed before now, so I can't find the ones that are new. But you can be assured that I am getting that info, and as soon as I have it, I'll let you know. Each new app listing not only expands what's available for pioneers today, but also helps set a stronger example for future developers. As more apps go live, the ecosystem becomes a more attractive and rewarding space to build in for community developers, creating positive momentum for innovation, adoption, and real-world utility. Note again that the mainnet app list does not include all mainnet and mainnet-ready apps, as selection is limited based on quality, utility delivered, and compliance with Pi ecosystem policies and guidelines. There are many more third-party Pi apps that are not listed here. Some third-party Pi apps that serve as a directory of Pi mainnet apps may display more or even all mainnet apps, so pioneers can reference those for a broader view of available apps. And I have seen those. People have posted pictures of them on other social media that show a lot more apps than are displayable within the Pi ecosystem interface. New account recovery option now available. A new flow has been introduced for password resets. If a pioneer has set up a trusted email, they will be sent a password reset link to that email address in addition to existing methods. The additional option is aimed at making account recovery more accessible and reliable while ensuring security, since email recovery is simpler and cheaper for users, and reliable in general. For example, no dependency on local telecommunications carriers. And that's a big deal. That's been a sticking point for a lot of people. And this is especially important for people who, for whatever reason, lose their phones and can't have access to their original number. This not only protects individual access to Pi, but also strengthens overall network participation by helping more people stay connected and active in the ecosystem. And that's a fair statement. If you can't access your account, you can't participate, right? As I mentioned previously, I've started cataloging all of the Pi network wallets. I'm not talking about user wallets. I'm not interested in those. I'm talking about the wallets that were created to implement the tokenomics as indicated in the Pi white paper, which is the 65% for mining, 10% for ecosystem development, 5% for liquidity, and 20% for core team compensation. Now, all of the user wallets are created in the Pi Foundation 2 wallet. They're sub wallets of this master wallet. And that is a sub wallet of yet another master wallet. And I'll go over some of that stuff later. But the important thing is the Pi Foundation 4 wallet. This is the wallet that was created to hold the compensation for the Pi core team. And as indicated in the tokenomics, that represents 20% of the total Pi, which is 100 billion. That 20 billion Pi is not made available immediately to the core team. Now, mind you, the core team is the founders, of course, but everyone else who's included in the core team that is qualified for compensation. So it's not just 2 people that get all of this. There's going to be quite a few more. We just don't know who they are. The important thing to point out here is that they don't get all of that. According to the tokenomics, it vests according to a schedule that's tied to the current circulating supply. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this in a previous video or I wrote it down somewhere, but based on the current circulating supply, somewhere around just under 11% of the total circulating supply is now available, which means that the Pi core team compensation has vested at roughly the same rate. And if you look here, the Pi Foundation 4 wallet contains 10,000 wallets, and each were originally funded with 2 million Pi, totaling 20 billion Pi. And since Open Mainnet, roughly 2.03 billion Pi has been moved out of these wallets. And I can tell you exactly which wallets they are, but I don't think that's really important right now. What is important is that it represents 10.1% of the original 20 billion Pi, which is in line with the vesting schedule indicated in the tokenomics. So I have no problem with this. The only problem I have is this is yet one more example of where the Pi core team is not being transparent. In my opinion, they need to disclose where this Pi went, what it was used for, but they have not done that. So that is really the only issue I have. Moving forward, I have all 10,000 of these wallets identified and cataloged, and I have the ability to monitor everything that goes in or out of these wallets. So I'll be following up and letting you know how this progresses. And if I see anything that shouldn't be happening, you can be sure I'll let you know. You know, a lot of people think I'm a fanboy for the Pi network, and I'm not. I believe in the project. Everything I present is, to the best of my ability, real information. I'm not going to make anything up. I'm not going to leave anything out that I feel is real. I leave out a lot of unfounded speculation that appears to be slanted towards intentionally trashing the project. And I don't want any part of that. Real information that's verifiable, whether it's good or bad, I will report on it. And you can be sure about that. So you may not be happy with me sometimes if it seems like I'm trashing the project just by pointing out negative information, but it's there. And when it does show up, I'm going to tell you. The last thing I want to talk about is something called WPI. And this has come up a few times in the comments. And what this stands for is wrapped pie. And it's this new project that's coming out there. I'm going to put project in quotes because if you want to call a potential scam a project, then yeah, it qualifies. But what it is what they call a wrapped token. Now, the Pi coin is a token technically, but it's a coin. It exists on its own blockchain and fees are paid in the native currency, which makes it a coin. But it's on its own blockchain. To participate in other blockchains, you need to have a bridge. And the only bridges that exist right now are those that are implemented by pinetwork's KYB partners. This particular project runs on the Binance Smart Chain. As you know, we do not have KYB with Binance. So any bridge between the Pi network and the Binance Smart Chain is not official. This project wraps a token that exists on the Binance Smart Chain, supposedly backed one-to-one with real Pi. And there's a lot of questions involved here. Where is the real Pi coming from? How can we verify where this real Pi resides? How is the wrapped token dispersed in terms of real Pi? To me, this seems like a very sketchy project. And I have no offense to the creators of this if this is legit, but you have to understand, crypto is fraught with scams. And the due diligence needed to roll something like this out has not been demonstrated in any of the information that has been put out regarding this project. So I caution everybody to stay as far away as possible until that gap is closed. Well, that's all I've got for today. I'm a little rusty because I've taken a couple of days off, so bear with me. I'll get my Pi legs back, like I said earlier. And if anything else breaks, I'll be sure to hop on here and let you know. But until then, don't panic. Stay the course, and remember, the success of the Pi network begins with you. Pi to the moon. Peace.